Hi, everybody. My name is Dave Schade. I'm the director of the Division Ag in the state of Alaska here. So welcome to our last Facebook of the year. I'm really excited and thrilled today because we have the Farm Family of the Year. So Weatherby is going to tell us a little bit about aquaculture and a new kind of agriculture that is really growing in the state of Alaska. It's something we've been really excited about since I became the director. I've learned more and more because I'm a traditional farmer. That's my background, but she's from Halibut Cove, not far from the other side of the bay where I grew up. So with that, Weatherly, you want to introduce yourself and your family, and then we'll talk a little bit about what it means to be Farm Family of the Year, and then you can tell us a little bit about your farm.
Okay. Hi, I'm Weatherly Bates. My family and we live in Halibut Cove, Alaska, and our business is called Alaska Shellfish Farms. We farm together, my husband, Greg, and our two kids who are 10 and 12 help us, especially with the pandemic. They've become really handy in our operation. Yeah, we've been farming oysters and mussels in Halibut Cove since 2007. So been doing it a while. Before that, we're originally from Rhode Island, and then we farmed in Maine before moving to Alaska. And we just saw so much opportunity up here with clean water and space, and a really good climate for raising oysters. Like the community of Halibut Cove was its aquaculture is really well received in our community. Like people love to get fresh oysters and mussels, and they like seeing us out there working. So like our community has really helped us develop our business here in Halibut Cove and helped a lot in our success.
Well, that's great. The Farm Family of the Year, it was really cool to see this year. We had 8 nominations. We had animal agriculture. We had crop agriculture. And I want you to know, I mean, you guys were overwhelmingly voted the winner. People were excited to see the new version of another part of our industry. Pretty excited to see that, you had your kids involved. I grew up on a farm, so yeah, you're a worker. It's the way it is. It's just as you get older, the more responsibility you get. And that's so exciting to hear that that's still growing because, in all of our agricultural industries, we've got an age gap that we're trying to work on as an industry. And so, believe it or not, 20 years ago, the Farm Family of the Year was developed by the division and the state fair. And so you're the 20th recipient of this great award. And what I wanted to let everybody know is, normally we do this during the fair. And we bring everybody into the fair, and the Matanuska Valley Federal Credit Union sponsors the trip in. This is a wonderful deal, a little hard to do with no fair. And so this year we got delayed because of COVID and a lot of other things like everybody else. It was something I was like, we have to do a Farm Family of the Year because what this does is promote to everyone the diversity of what we had. And I loved what you just said. You said the clean water. I see Alaskan agriculture around the country and around the world as clean water, clean air, clean soil, and really pathogen and pest free. And that's something we're working on. So with that said, I really wanted to congratulate you. Your daughter was there a minute ago. That was great. If she comes back in, she can
come back.
That is so neat. So why don't you give us a little update on, you and I were talking earlier about how many acreages and what you're growing, because that was really cool. I don't know about how you grow mussels and oysters and kelp. And so it's what you got now.
Yeah, we are so honored to become the Farm Family of the Year. I can't even tell you, it's been such a tough year for us with COVID and everything. And we found out a couple days ago about being Farm Family, and we were just so honored. And it's such a big achievement for us to be with, to accept this recognition as farmers. Because yeah, we're out there working all year, and I feel like we don't get to talk to that many of our customers so directly, and just to be recognized for being farmers is amazing feeling. So it's like really helping put a bright silver lining to 2020. Thank you guys so much. So yeah, our farm in Halibut Cove is about 23 acres, and it ranges, our depth of water is between like 90 and 180 feet deep. And we raise our oysters in the top 20 feet of the water column. They hang cages of oysters below blue buoys that you can see on the surface. If you've been to Halibut Cove or around any oyster farms, you probably know what I mean, but it kind of looks like long lines of buoys on the surface of the water. And below that is the oyster and mussels. So it's called suspended aquaculture. Our oysters are grown suspended in the water column, as are the mussels and the seaweed. There's other aquaculture on bottom, but we don't do any of that in Kachemak Bay. So yeah, it takes about 3 to 4 years to grow an oyster here. We're at pretty much the northern range that oysters can grow. They're cold-blooded, so their growth rate is dependent on the temperature of the water. So down in Washington and Oregon, it might take 8 or 9 months to grow an oyster. But up here in Alaska, with the water so cold, it's more like a 3 or 4 year grow out. So that kind of, it really makes a special product. It's cold water grown and super clean. Here in Alaska, we don't have problems with bacterial contamination that a lot of the farms in the lower 48 see. When they have rain, their farms get shut down. Here, we don't have rainfall closures because it's so remote. There's no pollution coming into our bay. So, I mean, we just saw so much opportunity up here growing oysters. Coming from, even in Maine, we would get closed down for rainfall and pollution for extended periods of time. But we saw in Alaska, the water's so clean and produces such a great product, and the community is supportive of the industry. And getting this award just exemplifies how supportive the state of Alaska and our local communities are of our industry. And I'd say that's probably one of the most critical things in starting your farm is you want to have the support of your neighbors and the community at large, because obviously you don't want to start a business where no one wants you farming. So we really felt like we were embraced in when we came to Halibut Cove. People were excited for us to start this business and see us farming here. And getting nominated for I'm sure, I don't know who, but some of our neighbors probably did that. And we're just so touched. They think that so much of aquaculture in our family. So it really
Well, I
means
can
a
tell
lot.
you that answer to that question. It was Julie and Dave Derry.
Oh, that's awesome. They're neighbors and close friends, and they get our oysters and mussels every week.
Yeah. And one of the things they said is that you actually went to a kind of a self-service model because things were so crazy with COVID that you just put it out in the boat and hey, put your money in the bag and take the product. So you got to tell me about that. I love that when I see that in the farmers markets. I've seen the roadside stands is here, put your money in, this is the cost. In Alaska, that'll work. I'm not sure it works in other places, but I had never heard about it for that. And I was like, man, if I'd have known that, I'd have went over there and got some myself. That is really cool. So yeah.
Well, it's kind of how I grew up. I grew up on a farm, and whatever we grew, my dad raised asparagus, we raised eggs, and so we'd always put it out on our stone wall and self-service, put the money in the can. So when COVID hit, it's been really disruptive to our markets. We used to sell a lot of our product out of state to wholesale seafood businesses.
Okay.
that would get our oysters every week. And we pretty much have lost all that business with COVID and restaurants closing in the lower 48. I was going over the numbers and our sales have been 30% of what they normally are this year. So we have like a lot of oysters and we don't have markets for them. So yeah, having this self-service boat, we just had an old boat at our house and I took it and put an old sign on it, and someone gave us like a little wheelhouse from their old boat, put that on, and some coolers with gel ice and just a little, coffee can. Or actually it was a shoebox.
Okay.
But people would just leave the money. I mean, I was so impressed. No one but a couple sea otters did take some mussels from us, but I don't think any people stole any. And we actually got some presents. We were so touched. Like someone left us flowers and a couple gifts on our little self-serve boat. So I really think people enjoyed it, and we definitely plan to do that, keep doing that in the future.
Well, that is such an Alaskan great story. We love that. So you and I were talking a little bit about some of the challenges in a new industry. And so crop insurance was something that was brought up to me the other day by some pretty high level officials. And I'm like, yeah, I don't think crop insurance is really that available. So, what would we need to do to make that a little more available? I know another kelp farmer had problems because the herring came in and put roe on his kelp, and that caused him some real serious, it killed his kelp. And
right.
He was like, and I'm like, that's a good question. I'm going to start asking around. So not to put you on the spot.
Yeah. Well, so I was in the industry in Maine, and there we also did a lot of the farm programs, and even the growers in Maine were not able to get crop insurance. This has been a thing going on. I mean, that was in 2005. I was in the industry there. And I've never been able to obtain it. I think there's just some like glitches about how we hold our product. It has, I don't know if it's somehow just not covered being in the water.
Okay.
But
well, that's
yeah,
something that is something that I'm going to keep talking to you and all the other folks that are asking, and we'll work with the FSA and the folks at AMS for crop insurance. And I know that I've talked to a number of producers that said that one of the challenges is some of these natural things that do sometimes occur. And when you're just a fledgling beginning farmer, it doesn't matter what kind it is, one little thing, I mean, you're just holding on as you're getting started. It can be pretty devastating.
Yeah, the thing is, you can get coverage. You're reminding me for certain things with oysters. Say, like we had friends in Maine that had large losses of their crops in the summer because the salinity of the water got like way too high because of a lack of rain. So they were able to apply for the crop insurance due to drought. But for us, I've looked into it, and a lot of the reasons like we might lose a crop, I haven't been able to find like coverage for, but I guess it doesn't mean it's not there. I do know with the kelp, if you have herring, like what happened to the person I think you're talking about, like you have kelp and herring naturally lays their eggs, they spawn on the kelp. And if that happens, you're not allowed to harvest your kelp. So it would be like a complete loss of your product. But at the same time, to me, like a lot of our products, I'm like, well, it was a big environmental benefit. Like even if our kelp went to seeding herring eggs, like to me, that's an awesome thing for the environment. And we're not depending directly on kelp sales. So kelp is more like an ecosystem benefit for our farm.
Okay.
But I know what you mean. It can be really tricky to figure out how to cover your crops in the water.
Well, I'm just telling you and others that we're looking at that, and we're going to, that's an issue that I'm working with the Alaska development team in the governor's office. We're trying to figure out how do we continue to build up this part of the industry. We have the Mariculture Revolving Loan Fund, but a lot of folks didn't realize that the Ag Revolving Loan Fund, we have a lot more resources in that fund. So you have two funds. You and I were talking that the FSA, Farm Service Agency, has also been supportive. So you got USDA, that's U.S. Department of Agriculture. It's kind of cool that I think it's becoming more and more, even in both systems, accepted. I'm aware that NOAA was a little slow in their COVID response for aquaculture. And that has actually pushed a lot of the NOAA programs, aquaculture is being pushed over into the USDA. So, even though that was pretty bad that, the benefits weren't reaped in a timely manner, I think people realized that agriculture and mariculture is agriculture. And, it's that discussion of, is this in an agency that's a natural resources agency or a wildlife agency? I mean, NOAA is much more of a research agency. So interesting to see as the policies go forward. And I think that it's pretty important that we all keep an open mind and we keep working towards mutual solutions. I loved what you said about ecosystem benefits, environmental benefits. And I've literally had some somewhat heated discussions with folks that think farming is bad for the environment. And I'm like scratching my head going, I don't know where you're coming from, but we are taking care of the wildlife as well as our animal critters that we had and, grew up that way. And so, we have to find win-win solutions. And so I really love that part of what you said. Yeah, but, the one guy that has kelp in 100 acres and he lost half of it, that impacted his pocketbook. And so I don't know. What we have to do is find win-win solutions to where everybody can make that work. So that is, I mean, we're excited. We'll try to I'm going to try to get down and come see you guys because I go down to the farm in Homer and Ketchimack Bay is a pretty small place where I grew up. So anything else you'd like to talk about? Because I love.
Yeah. Well, we've always worked really closely with like the Farm Service Agency and this year with COVID, being able to get help from like the USDA and all that was amazing. Yeah, like you were saying, I think a NOAA is more like a research. So for us in our farming operation, we've really gotten a lot of support from the Farm Service Agency, even since we began our farm. We came here and started farming in 2007, and then we got our acreage in 2010, and we had to take out loans to start our business. And if you go to a bank, it's pretty difficult to convince them to give you a loan for this, new business that does have a lot of risk. What you're saying about the insurance, it's like in my heart, I know like we could have a tsunami or something wipe out our farm and it's not covered. So it would be like our loss. But so it's like really hard to get outside support. But the Farm Service Agency, like we were able to get some loans to start our business. And now the state of Alaska has a revolving loan fund. So that's like really helping businesses start their farms. Yeah, so.
That, is there any advice for people that are thinking about getting into this kind of industry? I know that we've had more, the Department of Natural Resources, we actually had to put, over in our division of mining on water, 2 extra people on just to do the processing of applications for aquaculture sites, submerged land. So if people are thinking about getting into it, what are the challenges? What are the groups they should get involved with? Any advice?
Yeah, like I was kind of reading today in 2019, there were 24 operations in Alaska with production. So I think there's probably a lot more farms without production. Like people kind of jump into it, but then realize like there's a lot that goes into it. I just think like being prepared, like to know you're going to have setbacks and like gonna have more costs, like things go wrong a lot out on the water. You have to really like be willing to work at it for a long time. Like I tell our kids, like we really struggled to get our operation up to production. you spend 3 years without any income because you have to plant your crop and wait for it to grow. So you're like, for us, we would do our farm and my husband would cod like fish, and then I do other jobs too. So like when you're starting your farm, you really have to, have 3 years of like cushioning in your pocket to make it through, and like just not. So I think like really setting yourself up well, like, so you have like the financing if something you realize you need to do it a different way, or like it's not going, things happen. And also your market, like with the kelp, we have kelp on our farm, but we don't have a market for it. And it's like just natural set kelp. And it doesn't cost us anything to grow it, but like if I was growing it, I'd want to make sure that I had a market for it. I hear that from a lot of kelp growers around the country. Like it's hard to get into a market, even though there's so much you can do with it. Like you have to realize you somehow have to process it. You have to find out what you're going to do with it. And, it's just a lot goes into it, like the planning stages. Like my friend tells me, like you do 90% of the work is like in the beginning, and then it's like a lot of work in the beginning, years. So I would just say prepared, and like, make sure your community like is accepting and wants to see the operation. At least in other places in lower 48, there's like user conflicts. Like if you want to put a aquaculture site in, but your friend's lobster and they want a lobster where your site is, like it wouldn't be a good place. You have to make sure people are accepting and you can coexist with other users that are around you.
Great advice. John, do we have any questions today?
No questions coming in as of right now.
Excellent. Well, this is, I know it's the, end of the year and people are real busy trying to do that. So what I always do is I always give the guest the last word. So what would you like to say to everybody?
Well, I just want to say thank you guys, everyone, for your support of shellfish farming in Alaska. It's so exciting, all the developments that are happening, and research around the state, and all the farmers that, terrestrial as well. Like you guys are producing the food, like we need to eat 3 times a day at least. And that's what farmers are doing, growing the food. I have so much respect for all the farmers around the state, trying to grow for Alaska. I think we have some awesome products out there, and vegetables, and just so much meats, fish. Like it's just an awesome place to be in. We have like the best food in the world.
I think we just got to keep developing our markets. And I think that's the key. We have resources out there, and with people like you willing to put in the time and the effort. And yes, you're not a farmer if you don't work hard, and your family has to work hard. I sit at a desk all day and it's like, is this hard work? I'm like, not hard work. This is not private sector work. We do a lot here in the government, but we're not up at 5 in the cold boat going out there to check something because you got swells or whatever it might be to do what you got to do. And you said your husband and your son were actually out. So
yeah, and you always are gonna have setbacks. But you just kind of got to roll with the punches and like get back up and try again if something isn't working the right way. Like I think a lot of what makes you successful in this business is being able to like innovate and, adapt to what's going on around you and that kind of stuff. Well, that's what Alaska Spirit's all about, like our resiliency. So I think we'll get to the other side of this pandemic like stronger than before. I really hope that helps our food system like grow, more sustainable. And I know for us, like we've been doing a lot more local sales and selling our oysters directly to the consumer. And like, I know that's really healthy for us and other people. Like the closer you can get food to where you live, like the healthier the food is for you.
Right. And you are absolutely spot on that it has changed attitude. The governor was real clear on that in a Farm Bureau meeting we had the other day. He's like, yeah, I used to think food was on the boat. Now I realize we got to grow it here. And, he has definitely come all in on supporting agriculture. He is really excited about aquaculture. I can tell you that. We've talked about those things in lots of meetings. So we're going to keep helping you grow. In a couple of weeks for the mariculture task force, we're going to have a discussion of marketing and loan availability. So, that's one of those things that I want you and everybody else that is interested to join in.
Yeah.
There were some folks we didn't know the Division of Ag supported this. And I'm like, we have for a very long time. We've done international missions. COVID, we actually were set to have some Chinese and people coming in to buy. Of course, those got canceled. So those are going to be rescheduled. And so if different people are really interested, like you and I don't think I actually give my plug for Alaska Grown, but mariculture should be in our Alaska Grown program. I know you are, and that's great and have been. And so, that helps you sell on a national level. That helps you sell on an international level. So those are the kind of things that we're real proud of that we can do as the division to support your industry. So with that, I really want to say again, congratulations.
Thank you.
Everybody.
Awesome. Well, happy New Year. And thank you again. Just so happy.
You guys are so well deserving. Have a great year. Take care.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.